right, what's going on, y'all? So another one. This time we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna hit up a little compression. I put up some PDFs recently on my Facebook page. If you're not following it, go ahead, take the time. It's facebook.com/A1 made the beat. At A1 made the beat is everywhere, by the way. Um and it got a lot of engagements. So I was like, oh, this is something that people still, I they still want to know about. I think that I be believing that the YouTube is saturated with a lot of information, right? So I just be thinking like, oh, they don't want to see another video about this. But then I see the engagements and I'm like, oh, I guess they do. So this is for those people that like to watch the tutorials versus uh looking at the PDFs and trying to break them down. I can explain to it a little bit more and how I used those PDFs. And I'll post those PDFs in the notes so that you can download them. I put on my Google Drive or something for you guys to download them for those that don't have access to them. But anyway, um, yeah. So I can sit there and keep going on and talk about it, or we can go ahead and get into it. Let's go. All right, so we back. Compression. Compression. The myth. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you how I figured out compression. So these PDFs that I'm gonna show you, but then one day I was smoking, and I there was a specific strand, and all of a sudden I heard it. I'm not condoning smoking the reefer, the funny tobacco or anything like that, but I did. I started to hear it. I started to actually hear it, and it was like clicked, boom. It was like, oh, okay. Like I could hear it now. I can pick it up on records that they didn't use compression correctly, even on like major released records. I can pick it up clear as day now. So once you hear it, you'll hear it. You'll know it. I saw something on IG recently where a guy was talking about he uses beard as a way to explain it. I don't have a great beard to be able to explain it, but he was like the compression. Say, imagine a line is set. You go to get your, I'm sorry, you go get your beard trimmed up, and all of those loose edges at the bottom, that's your compression. How much is cut is the ratio. All right. So if you want to cut like this, that would be like a 2-to-1. If you wanted to cut like this straight across, that would be like a 8-to-1. And it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. It was like, it's those loose hairs on the beard and how you getting it cut. And it was like, oh, and then the attack is where they start the cut, where they start it, and the release is where they finish it. And it's like, it makes all the sense on the world. And then the game is if they mess up and they throw in some of that spray stuff to fix it, that's the game. So if it's a little too much, but it gives you the look that you want, but you still need it to look thicker, and then they spray that, I forgot what they call it, but they spray that in it to make it look thicker, boom, that's your game. It was like all these little things that he analogies used with the beard that made sense. So anyway, we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna show you some examples. I'm gonna break down what each of them do, and then we're gonna go from there. All right. So I was working on a sample that I'm gonna end up making a beat out of. I got kind of a drum track to it, but I'm probably gonna do it over. But and we're gonna use it on that. All right. So this was the sample I made. Hey, yeah. If y'all know how I work, I do it in MIDI, then I bounce it, but I'll do all my effects like guitar rig and all that stuff on the actual MIDI file. So I'm not carrying all that processing power over. All right, here we go. So compression. Let's go ahead and switch these. Boom. There we go. All right, compression. This is for those that don't know anything about a compressor. Okay. All right. Like I said, all these PDFs are going to be available to you, and this is what I used to get a thorough understanding of compression. All right. So this is just a standard compressor. All right. This is the one in Pro Tools, but you'll see all of these features on most VCA compressors, most Varimu compressors, and all your stock compressors like Ableton's compressor, MPC's compressor, the Forces compressor, the Ableton Logic, all of those. This is pretty much everything you're going to find on their basic stock compressor. All right. So first thing is the knee. All right. The knee, to sum it up, is how hard it hits. All right. So your knee can be really sharp where it pretty much, as soon as it engages, it goes, or it kind of rolls into it. That's a soft knee. Okay. Each compressor has their settings where one is softer than the other. I couldn't tell you. I just can hear it. Who does what? Like Ableton, they start off soft, and then you got to turn it all the way to the right to make it go hard. I couldn't tell you that. You can just look at it and see. You'll see. Hard is when it's like a real hard edge. Soft is more rounded. Okay, and just know that means that when it goes into it, it's going in soft. It passes that threshold and it goes into it like that, or it goes into it like that, really hard. Okay. And that's kind of like the last thing you kind of get the hang of, in my opinion. So I really wouldn't focus on that. I said it to middle in the beginning, and then from there you start adjusting after you kind of figure it out. All right, ratio is how much it's gonna drop. So if I got a peak, right, and the threshold is set here, as soon as it hits that peak, it's gonna say drop it 2 decibels or 4 decibels, 10 decibels. You know, the higher the number, the more it's gonna drop. Okay, all right. The attack. So you hear people, they talk about the attack, give it a slow attack, a fast attack, and stuff like that. So imagine a kick drum, boom. All right, a slow attack is going to allow the to come through, and then it's going to compress the it's going to compress that part. It'll allow the come in, the real hard hit, and then it'll compress the rest of it. Okay. A fast attack is going to catch it at the very beginning. Okay. With vocals, you want a slow attack. Okay. Not super duper slow, but you do want it to allow the transients of the vocal to actually come through. All right. Same with your kicks and snares, unless there's something that you're like really trying to creatively you're trying to get. Okay. Your release is that once it's below the threshold, once, all right, so it hits, it cuts it off, it does whatever you're gonna do with it, what you set with your ratio and your attack, then your release is gonna pretty much say carry it on for a little bit longer, or let it go right away. All right. So sometimes when you'll compress something and it'll duck it for a while, and you don't want it duck that long, if you adjust the release, it'll come back to normal volume sooner. Okay. It doesn't hold it unless you want it to hold it. Okay. That's where the release comes in at. All right. I use a slower release. So my attack is always faster than my release on vocals. Okay. That allows for the transients to get through, tame the peaks, and then make it sound natural when it leaves. I hope I explained that right. All right. Then you got threshold, right? Threshold right here. So threshold is look at it as the standard, okay? What you're setting, that you don't want nothing to go past that note, that level, okay? You don't want nothing to go past that level. All right. That's your standard. Nope. I want it here. I don't want it above. I want it here. All right. That's your threshold. So you set how high or low you want it to engage, where you want it to engage. Okay. Then the gain is so let's say you compress something, you got it sounding even like you wanted it to. You know, you didn't take out too much dynamics, but at the same time, the volume dropped. Then you just turn the gain up just a little bit. You shouldn't hardly ever have to crank the gain way up. If you got to crank the gain way up, you can press the hell out of that. And it's probably gonna sound like crap. All right. You hardly ever got to crank the gain way up. It's just to, and what I like to do is I like to turn the compressor on and off to see what the volume difference was, and then I'll adjust. All right. Side chain, that's a whole nother discussion. Um, Basically, side chaining is using another source. Was one way of side chaining, using another source to trigger when it actually engages versus using just threshold. Um, and there's some other ways, like when using mid side and stuff, like mid side compression and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother. That's like way advanced. All right, we're getting advanced right now. All right. So that being said, all right. Hope I didn't take too long. All right. So now we got the I think it's this one. That's an arterial. Yeah, pluck. Peaking a little bit. So let's put a compressor on there. Well, actually, you know what? Here, let's go through the kind of compressors before we do that. All right. So now you got mainly four, and you got a bunch of hybrids and stuff like that, but you got mainly four styles of compressors. You got a FET compressor, a variable move, an optical or an opto, and a VCA. All right. We'll start with the FET. All right. As you see, um, it's not a tube compressor, but it simulates a tube. Okay, so it gives you some saturation. It adds some warmth and color to it. All right. 1176 is used a lot, right? This is the style of one, and with these, the knee is pretty much already set, right? It's already set. You're not adjusting it. You can adjust the attack and release. Now, what I've noticed is some of these, the attack, the fast is to the left, and the slow is to the right, and then vice versa. So you just got to play with it and figure out which is which. All right. What I like to do is I like to really increase the input up and then start playing with it to figure out which one is fast, which one is slow. All right. I'll admit, older engineers, they gonna treat you like you should have known this, but hey, it is what it is. All right. We don't know. We don't know. All right. And then you got your ratios over here. Some of these compressors, they have a lot of good tricks on them where it's like you would um, select all of them, and it pretty much turns into an opto. The distressor is like that. Um, so you play with the different ratios to see what sounds you can get. It's all experimentation. You can't get it wrong. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to try some different things. As long as you're getting the tone that you want, that's all that matters. You know, I tell people all the time that come over and record, don't try to be the needle in the haystack. Be the haystack. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, the sound changes, and then the person that created that change is the person that becomes the star. You see what I'm saying? So don't be afraid to experiment. You know, people be like, "Oh, that's too compressed, or that's not compressed enough." No, it ain't. That's the sound I want. If it catches on, then all of a sudden you a genius. See what I'm saying? But anyway, so the way these work, all right, instead of your traditional threshold and stuff like that, crank your input up. All right. Crank your input up to get the sound that you want. And then you turn your output, which is your gain, you turn that down or up as you need it. Okay. That's after then you adjust your attack and your release based on what you want and your ratio. Um, so I usually like to start when I'm working with 1176, like on my vocals. I'll usually start about a 4. Um, I hardly ever use 8. I use 8 when I'm doing like background vocals and stuff. Um, yeah, and then they say the trick is all of these. I'll admit I haven't got the trick to sound good for me, but hey, it is what it is. But these are good for these are my notes that I've added to these things, okay? But these FET compressors are good for adding aggression and fatness, right? It adds like a tone to it. Some might say overdrive, okay? Or saturation, distortion, whatever. It adds its own type of color to it. That's what that means. All right. Good on drums, bass, guitar. So that guitar, that's what it had on it. It had a lot of compression on it. You hear that? That growl? That's what that that's what that is. Okay. 1176 model in the guitar rig. That's what I use for that. Um, good for limiting. Limiting, just stop it. Good for limiting. Parallel processing. So what they're saying is, um, so let's say, so like for that guitar right there, it was sounding really, really saturated. So then I came back on that mix dial, and I think I set it at like 40% before I exported it. Um, that's parallel. Or you can put it on a sub bus, which is what I prefer, but I was doing an MPC, and I couldn't add more sub buses. But you put it on a bus, and then you dial it up using a send, um, to get the tone, the exact balance of the tone you want. These are good for that. So that air compressor that's in the MPC software and the Live X standalone, the Force, all that stuff, I'm 99.9% sure that that is a FET compressor. Okay, 99% sure that's a FET compressor. All right, it works really good when you do the mix and wet and you adding it to your drums and stuff like that. It gives the right kind of growl. All right. So, but like I said, try it, see if it works for you. Play with it a little bit, you know. Uh, but these FET compressors, they're good for adding aggression. Okay, so you want to use those on things like drums, bass, guitars. If you're making a funky, aggressive rock type beat, whatever, it'd be great on clavs, shit like that. All right. Excuse my language if I'm offending anybody. Oh, real quick, and these aren't good for transparent compression. So what transparent means is what you put in is what you get out. If I compress my vocal, I want it to sound exactly like it is going out. It's just a little bit more tamed. Yeah, no, these aren't good for that. They're gonna add all kind of flavoring and color to it. All right. All right. Next, we got the variable move. All right, that Manly is a good example of it. Um, the Fairchild's good also for it. I don't have the UA 175 for it. I love using the Fairchild 670 on guitars. I love using them. But these are our vacuum tubes. So once again, you get some color, you're getting some warmth, you're getting some grit. All right, that's those variable moves. Okay, variable variable moves. Excuse me, Jesus. There it's I don't know if it's built on its technology because the technology is old that you can't be precise with it, but it's kind of a crapshoot. You know what I mean? When you dial them in, what you dialed in yesterday doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to sound the same tomorrow. All right, you got to play with them. You got to fine tune it for each instance. Okay, so what works on one thing is not going to work on another with these. All right, remember that. All right, but usually with these, with outside of a guitar, uh, I usually put a Manly on my master. All right, it's really good for like bringing the whole track together. All right, it's really good for that. Um, uh, I'm pretty sure they use this a lot for mastering also to add that last little bit of bite to it. Um, yeah, variable moves. There's not really much else to it. You know, they add a lot of fatness, a lot of girth, a lot of to your stuff. So be careful with it. Use it sparingly, okay? All right, let's see. Obstacles. That's the Opto, right? Um, got some tube in there. Got you some warmth. A lot of slow stuff. So like these are good for like the LA2A is really good on vocals. Really good on vocals. Um, especially a singer. That's that shine. All right. With the LA2A, you can't set the attack release. The distressor you can, but with these you can't. Um, Great for controlling the transients, those peaks when it's really like boom, boom, too loud at certain spots, just in certain spots. It's really good for controlling those. Okay, it's kind of like a soft limiter in my opinion. Um, Adds warmth. It adds a sheen to your vocals. It adds a sheen to them, like a little bit of sprinkle dust to it. I don't know what it is, but it sounds really good and when you combine it with a good like SSL channel emulation, sounds great as a 1-2 punch. You know what I mean? Um, Says good for guitars also and basses. Um, and I just got to go back to it. It's really good on vocals. What I tell people with vocals though, make sure that you done already took out your resonant frequencies. All right, those frequencies that's a little too much. Take those out when using this. Okay. Not good at controlling hard transients, and it's not going to add an aggressive tone. It's not. It's going to add a pretty tone. All right. It's going to add that sheen, that fairy dust on top. All right. And then the last one I'm gonna go over is the VCA. The VCA, um, like I got down here, it's a Swiss Army knife for compressors. It's everything. All right. It does slow, fast. Um, it's not adding any warmth. It's not adding any color. What you put in is what you get out. All right. It's extremely transparent. When they talk about everybody using the G bus, the SSL G bus, that's what they're talking about. It's a VCA. All right. If I'm not mistaken, a DBX is one also. Yes, actually, it's right here. A DBX is one also. Um, the 160. But I use the G bus a lot. I use the G bus a lot from UAD. Then you got it's good for everything. Really, it's great for everything. When you want to add a little punch to something, uh, it 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 gives you the power to. You got a little bit too much peaking. Is great for smoothing those out. Great on a bus compressor. It glues everything together. Like I said, the only thing that this thing is not going to do, it's not going to give you that grit and growl and that warmth that you're looking for. That's the only thing it's not going to do. Okay. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's see. Let's try some. Let's try some. Let's see. I should have did it with a beat that I hadn't processed already, but hopefully we'll be able to hear some things in it. Um, so hopefully I didn't do too much where you won't be able to hear it. But like the guitar, I know that I'm gonna be using off of Arturia. It Yeah, I was compressing the hell out of it. I used 11. I used an 1176 emulator, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do. So the first thing we're gonna go over is let's do a FET. Let's do a FET. So what's that? 1176. On 1176. Put 1176 on it. The AE is that black on black, that black on black. See what it sounds like without it. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead. Let's play with it a little bit. There's some peaks in there. There is some peaks in there that I really am not fond of. But let's see. So the way that these work, there's no threshold on there, right? It's your input. So you drive it. You drive it with your input. And then if it's too loud or need a little bit more gain, remember that gain button? Boom, right there. Okay. You got to manually do it. And then you got your attack and release. Okay. Um, if see how that's on slow, so all the way to the left is slow. But I know on like the Waves version, it's the other way around. To the right is slower. Um, yeah, I don't know why, but it is what it is. I don't know if that's how the real one is. I've only used it on the plug-in. So, but anyway, so let's see what we can do with it. See now how it's engaging when I turned it up. Ooh, it's adding a little bit more grit, a little bit more of that saturation, that distortion. Slow release on it. Fast. See how it's moving? It's moving fast and then coming back slow. All right. That's what you're looking for. That's that attack. Let's see if we can do that trick where they say all four of them. Ooh. See how I put it way out in front? See, let's turn it off. Let's see what it sounds like. Give it a little bit more body. Same volume. See what it sounds like in the mix. Added too much saturation. Too much for me. But so that was that. Let's do the variable move. Variable mu. Variable mu. I got a manly one, so let's see. See what we can do with this one. All right, and the way this is broken down, so you got your threshold, you got your attack. Instead of release, they got recovery, and you only got set options. Okay. You got your wet, dry. If it's on left, right, it'll control both. I'm sorry, on yeah, left, right, it'll control both. Okay. All right, let's see here. Make sure it ain't on limiter, because these can double as a limiter also. It's only okay. All right, here we go. So let's engage it. Threshold. Now it's moving. See how it's going back slow? So it's got a really slow recovery. Let's see what a fast recovery look like on it. It ain't too much faster. So it's not really hitting it. So here, let's come back on the threshold a little bit. Increase the input. That's the signal. Okay. Now let's hit it some more. All right. Now with this one, I actually want a fast attack because I want to take some of that pluck off. Okay. Let's combine it. Let's see what it sounds like. Let's keep it all the way wet. Okay. See if I need to turn that output down. Let's compare the two. Put it on off, or let's put it on bypass. See how the volume dropped? So that tell me my I got too much gain on it, so I need to bring it back some. Okay, turn it back a little bit. Now, if you need some volume, then you would use that also. Wow. The thing with the Manly plugins, they're really soft. Really soft. There we go. Oh yeah. Matched it. And like I preferred how I compressed it when I printed it. All right, so let's go to what's next? Let's go to optical. A good optical would be the LA2A, I think, or the distressor. The LA2A is simple. So actually, I'll show both real quick. All right, for those that don't have it. All right, LA2A, remember, it's good for adding sheen. Okay, so you just do your gain and your reduction. That's it. Turn it up. Have it hit how it hits. How much you want it to reduce? We ain't doing too much more to that. Oh, I can EQ that. Actually, I like that on that. I just got to EQ some resonance out of it in the mid-range, mid-high. Actually, I might keep that on there. Actually, yeah. Hold on. Let me keep that. All right, so the next one. I'm going to keep that one. What did I say? What else did I say I would show you? Oh, the distressor. Distressor. All right. If I go to the Swiss Army knife. There we go. All right. Optical. Boom. Set it to 10. Set it to 0. Now it's in optical mode. Okay. I want that one. That makes it where I don't have to EQ it. It took that pop out, that hard pluck in the beginning. Not bad. I don't know which one I like more. Got a lot of gain in that, don't I? So with this one, I got to turn it down. I like that though. It sounds so lush. All right. That's a conversation for myself later, not y'all. On my decision on with that. But then last one, Swiss Army knife, G-Bus. G-Bus. Great example of that. I want you to notice how it adds nothing to it. It just controls the sound. That's it. See how it adds all the pieces? Attack, release, makeup, which is gain, threshold, your ratio. All right. Not a lot of options. I want to go 10 on that one. That's the guitar. Hit it. Hit it. See how the volume went down? There we go. Should be even. I want it to hit fast. See how it moves back when it's slow? See how it moves back? It's moving slow, but it hits it hard, fast. I just really want to hit that hard. So let it breathe for a second, but then I want it to close pretty soon. Honestly, how I would use this, I would put this on the Masterbus and glue it all together. I just want you to hear it. Actually, let me put that in with my master chain. It's my master chain, y'all, so y'all see it. How's that G-Bus hit? times right, boy. I'm telling you. All right, that was it. I just wanted to go over compression. That was it. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time, but I figured 45 minutes is enough for a lifetime worth of knowledge. You know what I mean? So hopefully I covered everything that you need. If I didn't, I'm sorry, but I hope I did. Like I said, 45 minutes for a lifetime worth of knowledge. I think that's a good trade off. So um, hit me up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I really appreciate it. You can go to my Facebook page, IG, it's at A1 Made the Beat. Um, yeah, only big things. All right. All right, y'all. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace. I'm out.